Alright everyone, how are we doing? I hope you're well today on this fine Thursday as I bring you the latest news concerning Celtic. Only actually got a couple of stories for you today, but I think both of them are likely to get you talking in the comments. Now today is of course the big day for Brendan Rodgers, his hearing with the SFA to find out what punishment, if any, he will face for the comments made after our defeat at Tynecastle at the start of the month. I did go in depth on this big style yesterday, so if you haven't seen that video, maybe worth just pausing this one, checking that out and coming back to this. I'm obviously not going to go through all of that information again. However, there are a couple of interesting bits of news that have come out since I did that video concerning this hearing that's taking place at Hampden. Now the main one is that the club have reportedly decided to hire this guy, Nick DeMarco, a King's Counsel, which is, I'll admit, a new term to me, but apparently just means that he's a very good lawyer. And you can tell that from some of the high-profile cases that Nick DeMarco has worked on in recent years, like Leicester City's ongoing financial fair play dispute, Nottingham Forest's fight with the Premier League to reduce their points deduction, and even, a number of years ago, Newcastle United's Saudi-backed takeover. He also has history with Celtic as well, in one case in particular. You'll remember it back in March 2019 after we beat Rangers 2-1 at Celtic Park, the one when James Forrest scored late on and Scott Brown celebrated in front of the Rangers fans. Now, I know it's a number of years ago now, so you may not totally remember, but Brown was actually cited by the SFA for that and risked a ban. It actually seemed like a ban was pretty likely at that stage. He was accused by the SFA of failing to act in the best interest of Scottish football and was set for a ban, as I say, before being cleared of any wrongdoing. And we know that DeMarco was involved in this case because he literally tweeted about it afterwards, saying, "Delighted to have successfully represented Celtic captain Scott Brown in his case before the Scottish FA today. Now looking forward to watching him play at the match tomorrow." Now, the report in that tweet from the Daily Record that DeMarco actually quoted himself said that Celtic had fought the case on the grounds the SFA were guilty of double standards, and we even brought up a case featuring former Rangers player Josh Windass, who faced no punishment after aiming a gesture at Partick Thistle fans. Now, what does all this mean? Well, I guess, looking at that, it would seem like DeMarco and Celtic will be employing similar tactics in this case later today at Hampden Park, possibly looking at other cases in the past where managers have been critical of officials and got away with it. Now, DeMarco is clearly very good at what he does, and Celtic are clearly keen to really fight this one, given that we have, reportedly hired him for this. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things go. For some of you wondering about a time, it has been reported that the hearing is expected to start in the early afternoon. So what's that, like maybe 1 o'clock, something like that. I don't know how long it will take when we'll get a verdict through. I don't even know how the verdict will come through, whether it will be directly from Celtic first, or probably more likely one of the kind of main media outlets will get a hold of it. In fact, it'll probably be on the SFA website, won't it? That'll maybe be the first place. You'll find out somehow anyway. The other interesting thing here, the Daily Record in their report say that Celtic are, quote, surprised that the ref from that Hearts game, where all the controversy kind of started, Don Robertson, will be in charge for a game against Livingston on Sunday. So yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment. As I say, check out that video yesterday. My verdict after looking at some other cases is that Rodgers will be given a 2-match ban, with one of them suspended, so he'd maybe miss this Sunday in terms of not being in the dugout, but be back in the dugout for Ibrox a week later. However, with DeMarco and his record in the past, and that case with Scott Brown 5 years ago, it will be very interesting to see what way things go. We'll discuss all the fallout on tomorrow's video, don't worry. The bad news is Stevie will be with me as well, so you'll need to put up with his ramblings. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting Thursday. The second story that I want to touch on, and again, a fair bit of drama going on in this one, is between the Green Brigade / North Curve / boys and Celtic. Now, I spoke the other day about a statement from the North Curve that had basically said that the Celtic End would be a thing again this season for a couple of Celtic FC women's matches between now and the end of the season. Now, the team are playing Hearts and Hibs in home matches that have both been moved to Celtic Park, very similarly to last season when we had home games against Glasgow City and Hearts at Celtic Park, and the crowds were great. I think we got like over 10,000 for the first one and like nearly 16,000 for the Hearts game on the final day of the season, and it was certainly hoped that similar could happen again this season. In fact, more than hoped, it was kind of assumed, I think, given that statement the other day. I mean, it was a huge success last year. So we were all kind of expecting similar scenes this year until yesterday, when a statement came out from the various ultras groups on the North Curve's Twitter feed again. It read, "Despite our best intentions and efforts, the club has refused to facilitate the Celtic End for the upcoming Celtic FC women matches at Celtic Park. This is in stark contrast to similar matches last May, where fan reps worked constructively with the club to promote the matches and draw record crowds. This decision has been taken by Michael Nicholson, CEO, and Chris Mackay, CFO. It is vindictive against the concept of the Celtic End, the fans groups behind the idea, and the thousands of fans who want to see some level of consideration given to a goal-end standing section to rejuvenate a stale Celtic Park. Shamefully, Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay would prefer for Celtic FC women to be detrimented than have another positive advert for the Celtic End. Ironically, this decision contradicts the club's statement following the cancellation of away tickets at the recent SWPL Glasgow derby, which decried others undermining the promotion and progress of the women's game. At a critical time in both the men's and women's season, we have no desire to engage in a public spat which may distract positive support for both teams. For this reason, as well as for unreasonable obstacles, it is regrettable that we will not attend the upcoming Celtic FC women matches at Celtic Park." By the way, those three logos along the bottom, left to right, you've got the Green Brigade, North Curve and Boys Celtic. So that's who's attached to the statement. This is a very polarising topic. I just want to say straight away that I am in favour of the Celtic End, but, you know, I totally understand I don't sit, in the Jockstein stand at all. So I guess I can't totally understand how other people feel, how they may have, an attachment to their seat going back years. They may just not want to move. I think it's important everyone's respectful of everyone's opinion in this, because otherwise it just turns into kind of mudslinging. That's one issue for me, the whole Celtic End stuff. And to be honest, I'm not hopeful it'll ever come to anything. I just think there's kind of too much opposition already. And we'll come on to what the club spokesperson has had to say in a wee second. And I know people will say, the club haven't actually stopped anyone from going to this game, but the club have blocked the Celtic End from happening. They're not going to allow, everyone to congregate in that Jockstein stand. And I guess that's a real shame. The kind of elephant in the room here, and it was present last year, is that for many people who went to, one or both of the matches in question last year, Glasgow City and Hearts at Celtic Park, the main draw would have been the Celtic End rather than actually going to support the women's team. Now, that doesn't exist for everyone, but I think, for many people, the number one reason that really got them out their house and to the game that Wednesday night against Glasgow City was because the Celtic End was being trialled and it was something new and people wanted to be part of something. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, that's kind of where women's football is right now, but it's getting so much bigger, and I don't think any of the Celtic women's players would have been complaining, to be honest, because they still had thousands of people come out who wouldn't normally have supported the team. And if just like 100 people from that 16,000 crowd last year have developed love for the women's team and even just follow the results more than they did before, then that's a net gain. And by the way, I don't think any of the ultras groups have shied away from, the Celtic End being their main motivation for going to these matches. And if you disagree with me, I think, you'll probably see that in the games coming up at Celtic Park for the women's team, that the crowds won't be as strong as they were last year. That's just kind of where we're at the moment. But as I say, I think it was a really good thing for everyone last year, for the Celtic support, for the women's team getting crazy numbers, record-breaking numbers in terms of Scotland, and for promoting the Celtic End as well. And none of that's going to happen this year, which I think is a shame. Celtic spokesperson then, this is what came out from the club. The group were made aware that the Jockstein stand would not be made available due to certain safety concerns relating to this specific area, but arrangements have been made by the club to allow the group to attend within the rail seating section. This has been communicated to the group, and the club hopes that as many supporters and supporters groups as possible come along to support Celtic FC women at the upcoming Celtic Park matches, as well as all other matches. Now, the whole safety concerns line has been brought out again. I'd be intrigued to know what the safety concerns are in the Jockstein stand. Again, I don't sit there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been in there for a few games in the past, like Champions League games, derbies, and I think people have been standing in that stand for those games. Maybe not the whole match, but certainly for parts of it. So is standing in the Jockstein stand now, a big issue here? And I know, again, many people who aren't fans of the Green Brigade, and listen, I don't think they're perfect in everything they do, but they may question why the groups have said that they're now not going to the matches when they still have, the rail seating section available to them. I'm guessing they're just quite fed up with being met by resistance in every single thing they do. And it does, I think, give an interesting kind of snapshot into the way the club, resists certain things. I mean, this is literally a really positive thing. I can't find any downsides of wanting thousands of people to turn up and support the women's team, and yet the club have come to the conclusion that it shouldn't happen and things should be done their way. And I hate to say it, but I promise you, what was it, 16,000 for Hearts last year? I think you'd be lucky to get a third of that this year, because of this decision that the club have taken. But that's where we're at. I just fear that, going to the whole Celtic End stuff as well, I fear that we're going to be left behind. You look at all of the other major clubs in Scotland, and they're all kind of trialling ultra sections behind their goals. Hearts are doing it. Hibs did it recently. I think Rangers are looking at it as well. They may even have had it in some games. Aberdeen have been doing it probably the longest. So I just wonder why something can't be sorted out for Celtic. But anyway, I'm sure that'll get people talking for various reasons. That's your big stories, 2 big stories for now. Thursday is going to be a really interesting day. As I say, I'll be back with Stevie on Friday to look back at it all. So yeah, catch you then.